I've been tagged, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I've been tagged with the mid-year book freakout tag by my friend Britton, also known as Some Okie Dude. Go check out his channel. I'll drop the link down below in the description. I also had him on my channel recently to talk about Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness as a part of a series where I'm trying to find people just like you out there who are passionate, who've read a book that has impacted their lives greatly. We get online and we talk about it. So if you'd like to join me on this channel, let me know in the comments below. But I don't know why everybody's freaking out. This isn't a numbers game. I can only assume it's because everyone is scrambling to finish books. I mean, come on, relax, everybody. I'm not going to freak out on you here because I'm not a booktuber that screams at your face. I'm going to talk about books slowly, calmly, evenly, smoothly. So let us move on to these questions I have to answer. The best book I've read so far this year. That honor would go to Cormac McCarthy's The Road. I read this book way back in 2006, I think, when it came out. I enjoyed it. I don't think I appreciated it for what it was back then. I didn't even know who Cormac McCarthy was at all when I first read it. However, I dedicated an entire read-along series. If you'd like to check that out, I will link that below as well. I also reviewed it if you want the short version of it. But reading it again, taking a second look at it, and reading it slowly and carefully really opened my eyes up to how beautiful of a book that is. It's incredibly accessible for Cormac McCarthy. This is no Blood Meridian. A lot of people they can't quite read between the lines, I guess, about what the book is truly about, and they tend to think it's just this slog, this post-apocalyptic slog of murder and misery and all kinds of things. But no, it is much, much more than that, which is why I gave it a 10 out of 10. It's a book that I will remember for a very long time, if not forever. And I think, being a parent myself, I'm sure you can understand the significance there. All right, number 2, the best sequel you've read so far this year. I haven't read any sequels this year. Not that I dislike reading series, it's just that they rarely capture my attention to go beyond the first book. I know, I'm a picky guy. So if you have a series you want to recommend to me, let me know in the comments below. I am, however, reading Joe Abercrombie's A Little Hatred, which is part 1 of a trilogy. So I don't want to say I'm thoroughly enjoying it right now, but I have my hopes high. I have high hopes because in the past he has not disappointed me whatsoever. I mean, I've enjoyed all of his books, all the other ones I've read, except the young adult trilogy because, well, do I need to really get into why I don't want to read young adult? But anyway, if that book ends up being a success in my eyes, I will probably continue on with that series. New release you haven't read but want to. That would be The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, a criminally underrated fantasy novelist. I first read his Empire of Thorns trilogy way back when it came out and was absolutely blown away. But he really showed me what fantasy can be. And if you haven't read it, I can't recommend it enough. But he's part of a class of fantasy novelists that really brings something new to the genre, something fresh. Joe Abercrombie I would put in that camp as well. Even though Joe Abercrombie's freshness lies more in his prose, the way he writes. It's very flowy, one might say. It's very musical. It's something that for me, just really breaks up the monotony of some of the denser fantasy prose out there. So the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, I would absolutely love to say Absolution by Jeff Vandermeer, which is the 4th novel that is going to be part of what I thought was a trilogy, the Southern Reach trilogy, which is, I've mentioned it's my favorite trilogy that I've ever read, and favorite book that I've ever read, group of books, I guess. So far. That can always change. But it has a tentative release date of this year or next year. I'm willing to bet it's next year. So I will pick a book that definitely will come out this year. And that is The Mysteries by Bill Watterson and John Kashk. Kashk? I don't know how to say that. Bill Watterson, if you don't know who he is, I'll be surprised if you don't. He's famously known for his work, Calvin and Hobbes, a comic that I think I wasn't ready for. I remember coming out in the paper when I was a kid and reading it periodically, and it was kind of funny, but I think it was just too clever for me at the time. It said too many things that I wasn't quite grasping at the time. And going back to his work, and I will have to say that I haven't read all of his work, but it's incredibly mature for something that you would see in the Sunday Comics page for you old fogies out there who remember what newspapers used to be. But this one just looks incredibly interesting. And the cover art, and I'll put it up right here, it just has this kind of haunting imagery here. And he collaborated with this man, John Cash. And in the Amazon description, he talks about how they kind of threw away everything they knew in technique about art and creating art, and they just tried to kind of go where the muse took them. And Bill Watterson is an interesting case because he quit while he was on top. He did not let his franchise just dwindle into nothing. No, he just stopped for whatever reason. I guess he felt that those stories were done being told. And that is something to be respected, my friends, because we know that many books, many TV shows, many movies are ground into the dirt until they're milk dry. But this one, while it's not a novel, Bill Watterson, I'm sure he's going to tell a very powerful story, a very adult story, a very mature story. So I'm highly looking forward to that. Comes out in October. Number 5, the biggest disappointment this year has been, this is going to be no surprise to anybody out there who know me, that is Bryan Catlin's The Vor. This was something that Alan Moore called phosphorescent, on the cover, in fact. And I made it all the way through this book, surprisingly. I dedicated a complete read-along to it. I also have a review. I'm going to link all this down below if you want to check it out. While it was very beautifully written, often, it felt like a man who was obsessed with ideas over story, if that makes sense. Plenty of colorful characters in there, but they just kind of went nowhere. The story went nowhere. It felt to me like he was trying to create a setting, more interested in creating a setting than he was writing a novel. And it's unfortunate because I think this could have been something great, right? And I'd feel like I'm not going to finish the series because I don't think Bryan Catlin cares about story, really. I think he's just pulling stuff from mythology, he's pulling stuff from history and kind of blending them together and hopefully creating something creative. I guess something that inspires him, but even thematically, it wasn't very interesting. That was quite a big disappointment to me because I love the cover art, I love the premise, I love that it wasn't standard fantasy, but alas, here we are. It completely fell apart for me. All right, my biggest surprise was actually a book from 1944 or 45, I can't remember, but it's The Dwarf by Per, yes, you heard me, Mats, Lagerkvist. It was something that I discovered on a bookshelf a long time ago, didn't pick it up for some reason, and then a friend on my Discord asked me if I'd read it, and I hadn't, and so I decided, you know what, I think it's about time to pick this thing up, and boy, oh boy, am I glad I did, because that was quite a read. I also have a review for that on my channel. I highly recommend that book. It's a great, deep character study. I'm not really for allegory and storytelling as much. I know there's a lot of arguments around, or discussion around what this book truly means, and I don't really care about that. I mean, that's fun. You guys can analyze that to death, but it's a compelling story. It's a compelling character. Highly recommend it. All right, my favorite new author, debut or new to you? Well, I can't think of any brand new authors or ones that are new to me that I've really fallen in love with. Per Lagerkvist obviously was a good one, but I don't want to repeat myself too much in this video. So I'm going to talk about 2 gentlemen I think all of you out there should be reading. I'll start with Donald Ray Pollock. He is the master of the Southern Gothic. He completely hooked me in with The Devil All the Time. Also a Netflix show or a movie. Not as good as the book. Read the book. Maybe watch the movie after if you're really interested in seeing the performances, because there are some great performances in it. His debut, Knock 'em Stiff, is one that I dedicated a read-along to on this channel. I also reviewed it if you want the short version, but that one completely blew me away. I'm going to read this year, and I'll talk about that later in the video, his latest book called The Heavenly Table. The second author I'm going to talk about is Ken Greenhall, and he completely amazed me with his book Hellhound. Yes, Hellhound. It's from the POV of a dog. Yes, a murderous dog. And you may be thinking to yourself, wow, this sounds like a Disney movie, gone wrong. But that's what I thought too, but he made it work. I shouldn't say every single POV is from this dog. I don't think anyway. It's been a little while since I've read it, but you can check out the review on my channel. A very old review, but it's one that I still think about quite often. I've read a couple of his other books, Elizabeth and Childgrave. Both were great. Both were not quite as good as Hellhound. He has a couple other novels, I think, that I've yet to get to, which I plan to. But he's an interesting man because he started writing very late in life, very similar to Donald Ray Pollock, another man who started writing very late in life. So you can see that all of their experiences, all of their life experiences kind of just came together and they expressed them through their fiction in very different ways. Ken Greenhall is more of a horror writer, speculative writer, whereas Donald Ray Pollock, as I said, is Southern Gothic. So go check them out. Highly recommend all of their works that I've read, of course. All right, newest fictional crush. Fictional crush. I don't know. The books that I read are kind of dark. They're kind of depressing. They're kind of dystopian. So I haven't quite met a lady of the page that I've had a crush on yet. So Maybe someday. We'll see how it goes. But if you have a lady on the page or from the page that you think I should read, let me know in the comments down below. All right, my newest favorite character, well, that will be Piccolene from The Dwarf, which I already talked about. Very interesting, very reminiscent of Tyrion Lannister from the Game of Thrones series, but different. And you'll have to watch my review, which I'll link below as well to see exactly why. But highly recommend that one. Book that made me cry, The Road. I distinctly remember tears spilling down my face when I read The Road numerous times, particularly toward the end. Not the very end, but when we're arriving toward that point in the novel. And during these read-alongs, I remember I jokingly was saying, hey, if you want to see a grown man cry, watch this video. Because I didn't know, because on these read-alongs, I tend to revisit the text. I don't just give my thoughts, but I read along and try to summarize what's going on in the novel. And there were some really tough ones in there, and it's really just a testament to Cormac McCarthy's writing and how he can evoke such emotion in very simple words, right, in a simple book. All right, next up, the book that made me happy. I would also say that's The Road, because where there is dark, there also should be light, right? There are some great, funny, happy moments in this book that I remember smiling broadly at. Again, I know I said I didn't want to repeat myself too much in this, and I don't read very quickly. I don't read a lot of books because I'm a slow reader, but yeah, The Road. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you cry. It's going to make you ponder the mysteries of life, I guess. All right, number 12, the most beautiful book you have acquired this year. Okay, well, this is going to be a different one for you guys out there. This is not a novel. This is a kind of a role-playing game, but it's called Vermis. Vermis. It's by a graphic designer or artist called Plastiboo. And what it is it's kind of it's a game guide. You can see right here, it says official guide, but here's the kicker. This game has never existed. It's very Dark Souls inspired, if you guys are familiar with those games out there. But all of the artwork, it's very pixelated looking. It's very old school game art, which is definitely not reminiscent of the Dark Souls games, but you can see here, it's capturing the mood. It's very poetic. Even the opening line, is right here, or the opening paragraph, kind of introducing you to the world and the tone. But it's a very narrative read. It's very interesting. They sell out. They print in like 3,000 batch copies and sell out like within days. So highly recommend it. I will drop a link down below if you want to check it out. But it's kind of a linear story. It's not a game, so you can read through it, and it takes you on this dark and melancholic journey, and you guys know I love the melancholy, right? And it's only like 15 bucks or something, but I think it's shipping from Europe, so the shipping's a little expensive. All right, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? Well, I mentioned The Heavenly Table by Donald Ray Pollock. I also want to read Foe by Ian Reid, which was part of our voting for the latest read-along book club. And of course, all of the novels, all of the fantasy novels, you guys voted on in my latest poll, one of my latest polls anyway. Prince of Nothing by Scott Backer, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. Titus Groan by Mervyn Peake, which is part of the Gormenghast trilogy. That one seems interesting. I don't know if I'll read the whole trilogy, though. We'll see how I feel about the first book. And of course, The Book That Wouldn't Burn, a book that I've already mentioned by Mark Lawrence. I'm sure there's some other ones I'm not thinking about. And if there are some you guys want to see reviews on, you want me to read, you want my take, let me know in the comments below. Content creators that I've been loving is the last thing I need to respond to. Let us start with Rekindled Reader, Theo, over at that channel. He has some really cool takes. He doesn't do a lot of formal reviews, but he sneaks a lot of reviews in his coverage of what he's reading or what he's going to read. Highly recommend his channel. He also does a lot of read-alongs with other booktubers, which seems like a really cool concept. And hey man, I'm open for it if you ever want me along for the ride. Second is going to be The Falcon Reads. He's kind of a cross between, in the vein of Better Than Food, book reviews, and Leaf by Leaf, but far, far, far less pretentious. He is the king of one-take book reviews, which I'm very jealous of, as exemplified by the many cuts in this video. But go check him out. He reads very broadly, very interestingly, classics, modern stuff, stuff that other people aren't reading out there. So if you'd like to get a look at some books other people aren't talking about, go check him out. Last but not least, Lee Huntz, because, my man, you need to make some more videos out there. I always like the discussions you bring to the table regarding books and other things, of course. So go check him out. He only has a few subscribers. And by the way, all of you guys, tag You Are It. I am tagging all 3 of you. Don't feel pressure to make a video if you do not want to, but I hope you do. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.